Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. So, next topic is warm up and flexibility training. Okay, for our first slide, warm up. Warm up is to help protect against injury by improving muscle flexibility. Next point is to raise the body internal temperature. For example, for general warm up, you can do 5 to 10 minutes slow jog or cycle, increase your heart rate, blood flow, deep muscle temperature, respiration rate, perspiration, and increase viscosity of joint fluid. And then next point is to increase muscle temperature, allow great amount of flexibility, which is to make sure your athlete is ready. And the last point there is for specific warm-up. It incorporates movement similar to athlete sport. It can be added to 2 minutes of dynamic warm-up. Okay, next slide is why warm up is important. Biasanya kita akan cakap kenapa kena warm up, to reduce risk of injury, to avoid injury, to make your muscle ready before exercise. Tu secara am bila kita beritahu pasal kenapa kena warm up. But this is secara spesifik. Kenapa kita kena warm up? So after this, bila orang tanya kenapa warm up, awak bagi tahulah benda ni. Baru dia dengar aja benda tu semua. Dan for you yourself also, bila you rasa malas nak buat warm up, sekarang you dah tahu kenapa mesti buat warm up. Okay, point number 1 here is to increase the degradation of oxyhemoglobin. Breaking down the chemical complex of oxygen and hemoglobin result in the release of oxygen from the blood, enhancing the delivery of oxygen to the exercising muscle. When we talk about oxyhemoglobin ni adalah oxygenated blood, darah awak yang beroksigen. Bila banyak oksigen, easier for you to do those exercise when you have enough oxygen. Point number 2 is to increase body temperature. Point number 2 is the elevation in body temperature produced by warm-up reduce the potential for skeletal muscle injury and connective injury, since core muscle and tendon have been shown to be more susceptible to become injury. And point number 3 is to increase blood flow to the exercising muscle. Point number 3 is your blood flow to your muscle. The greater level of blood reaching the muscle involved in the activity aids in the delivery of the fuel. For example, glucose and FFA require free fatty acid required for energy production. So, oxygen bukan sekadar darah awak tu mengalir to bring oxygen, it also to bring fuel, energy when you do those exercise. And the point number 4 here is to increase blood flow to the heart. Now, your blood flow to your heart. A greater level of blood delivery to the heart reduce the potential for exercise-induced cardiac abnormality. For example, electrocardiographic disturbance, reducing the potential for myocardial ischemia. In point number 4, it states that to make sure your heart works efficiently and effectively. Next point is decreases the viscosity of the muscle. Reduce muscle viscosity, increase the suppleness of the muscle, thereby enhancing the mechanical efficiency and power of the exercising muscle. When we talk about viscosity of the muscle is the rate of your muscle contraction toward demand of your exercise. That is viscosity of your muscle. When you do your warm up, maknanya bila awak buat warm up, waktu awak buat exercise tu, muscle awak tak bekerja lebih sangat dan tak bekerja kurang sangat. Sebab you are ready, sebab you dah buat warm up for your those specific muscle first. And then your second point is causes an early onset of sweating. The earlier onset of sweating promotes evaporative heat loss and as a result of decrease the amount of heat stored by the body. This will help to prevent an individual body temperature from rising to dangerously high level during more strenuous exercise. Maksud dari sini, muscle you takkan berpeluh awal sangat dan takkan berpeluh lewat sangat when you do warm up. Dan secukupnya peluh tu terhadap body temperature awak. Sebab kadang-kadang bila muscle atau badan awak terkejut, your physiological is interact to those training without do warm up, mungkin dia merembeskan lebih sangat sweating. Jadi menyebabkan badan awak dah kurang liquid dan melibatkan your body temperature. Okay, and the point number 3, next point here is enhance the speed of transmission of nerve impulse. As nerve impulse are conducted at a faster rate, neuromuscular coordination tends to improve, resulting in better performance of certain motor tasks. Maksudnya your muscle ready to do those exercise. And next point is to increase the blood circulation of muscle and connective tissue. A higher level of blood reaching the muscle, tendon, and ligament involved in the activity increase the elasticity of this tissue, resulting in a safer, more effective performance of stretching exercise. Increase your muscle circulation. Increase your blood circulation. Okay, next point here is prepare the cardiovascular system for the upcoming more strenuous physical activity. Warming up help to ensure that the cardiovascular system, heart and blood vessel is given time to adjust to the body increased demand for blood and oxygen. And the last point here is prepare the muscle system for the upcoming more strenuous physical activity. Warm up provide a transition from rest to strenuous exercise and may reduce the likelihood that excessive muscle soreness will be a concomitant result of strenuous exercise. So all these 2 points relate to prepare your CV, which is your heart, and then prepare your muscle, your training muscle. Next slide is, does warm up reduce the risk of injury? Yes, the answer is yes. Warm up reduce risk of the injury based on all the points on our previous slide. Next is, how about specific warm up? Okay, the answer here is when we do specific warm up, it more focus on your sport movement. That is specific warm up. But the function of specific warm up and warm up sama. Cuma specific warm up is to make sure you ready for those movement related to your exercise, your training. Contoh main bola, untuk ready dia main bola. Kalau dia nak buat weight training, ready to do a weight training. Okay, now we go to flexibility. Flexibility, when we talk about flexibility, it's most likely related to ROM. What is ROM? ROM is range of motion available in a joint or group of joint. And then point number 2 here, instead optimal musculoskeletal flexion can improve performance by increasing a joint movement and decreasing risk of injury. The keyword here is optimal. Dia bukan cakap maximum ROM, tapi optimal ROM. Maknanya ada had dia. And then the last point here is the degree of movement that occur at a joint is range of motion, ROM. Next one is flexibility training program. What is flexibility training program? Flexibility training program is a planned, deliberate, and regular exercise program that can permanently and progressively increase the usable ROM of a joint or a set of joint over a period of time. Okay, here are some research that show that the efficacy of stretching to prevent injury, and then the result show here is yes, when you do flexibility stretching, you can reduce risk of injury. Okay, next slide is factors affecting flexibility. Point number 1 is joint structure, which is ball and socket joint, shoulder and your hips have greatest ROM. For first point here, apa yang saya tekankan di sini adalah ramai orang confuse, dia fikir saya suka sebut pasal joint dekat lutut awak tu. On your knee. Dekat lutut awak dia bukannya ball and socket lah, dia macam pintu sahaja sebenarnya. Sebab tu ramai orang silap bila dia stretching for the knee. And point number 2 is age and gender. Young people tend to be more flexible and female more flexible than male. That is factor affecting flexibility. And the third point here is connective tissue, tendon, ligament, fascial sheath, joint capsule and skin may limit your ROM. Dia akan limit your ROM. Contoh orang gemuk ke apa ke, akan limit ROM dia. Sebab connective tissue dia lebih banyak, lebih besar. Okay, next point is weight training with limited ROM. Heavy resistance training with limited ROM may decrease ROM. To prevent loss of ROM, athletes should perform exercise that develop both agonist and antagonist muscle and exercise through full range of motion. Maksud dari sini, to reduce the factor that can limit your ROM, you kena buat agonist and antagonist muscle. Contoh dia, when you do bicep, you must do tricep. Itu biasa, orang memang akan buat tu. Cuma yang orang jarang buat adalah when you go for abs, you must go for lower back. Ingat tu. When you go for chest, ni orang selalu buat juga lah, tak ada masalah. You go for pectoralis major, you also go for lat pull down. When you go for quadricep, you go for hamstring. That is agonist and antagonist muscle. To make sure your muscle are balanced between agonist and antagonist muscle. Okay, next point is muscle bulk. A large increase in muscle bulk may adversely affect ROM by impeding joint movement. For example, athletes with large biceps will have difficulties in stretching the triceps, racking a power clean, and holding a bar while performing front squat. This is front squat. Bar dia dekat depan, this is front squat. This is normal squat yang kat belakang kita selalu buat. And then next point is activity level. Active person tend to be more flexible. Next slide is frequency, duration, and intensity of flexibility exercise. Point number 1 is that stretching twice a week for 5 weeks has been shown to improve flexibility. Next point is each practice section should be preceded with 5 to 6 minutes of general warm-up, 8 to 12 minutes of sport-specific stretching, and conclude with 4 to 5 minutes of stretching. And then the last point here is individual stress should be held to the point of mild discomfort, not pain, for 15 to 30 seconds. Next slide is proprioceptors and stretching. Muscle spindle is function to monitor changes in your muscle length, because rapid stretching will cause stretch reflex. Motion will be limited by the reflective muscle action. And the second point here is GTO, Golgi tendon organ, function to sensitive to increase in muscular tension. And GTO is connective between your muscle and your bone. There are few types of stretching. Number 1 is active stretching. Active stretch occur when person stretching supplies the force of the stretch. You yourself supply the force. And next one is passive. Occur when a partner or stretching machine provide the force of the stretch. Ni either you using machine or using tool, kursi ke, bangku ke, kawan tolong tolak ke. That is passive stretching. Next is static stretch. Is slow and constant with end position held for 15 to 30 seconds. Include the relaxation and concurrent elongation of the stretch muscle. Number 3 is does not elicit the stretch reflex. And the last one is less risk of injury. Good for beginners, static stretching. Next is ballistic stretching, typically involve active muscular effort and use a bouncing type movement in which the end position is not held, often used in pre-exercise warm-up, trigger stretch reflex and not the preferred technique because it high risk of injury. Next is dynamic stretching, similar with ballistic, but dynamic stretching avoid bouncing and include movement specific to a sport or movement pattern, and also we can call it specific warm-up. Aside from that, dynamic stretching also adalah perubahan daripada ballistic stretching. Basic stretching, when you do bouncing, it high risk injury to your joint, your muscle. But when you do dynamic stretching, it become more safe. Advantages of dynamic stretching. What is advantages of dynamic stretching? Because when you do dynamic stretching, it focus on your sport. What kind of activity you want to do. That is the advantages of dynamic stretching. Okay, here are some example of dynamic stretching, which is arm swing. Why you can do arm swing? Ingat tak tadi, arm swing, shoulder joint. Shoulder joint dia melibatkan ball and socket joint. Jadi you can do arm swing. Next is lying cross leg behind, and then power skip. Next is straight leg walk and walking high knee. And the last example of dynamic stretching is walking lunges. Ada banyak lagi untuk dynamic stretching. Awak pun tahu, awak pernah buat juga kan semua tu. Okay, next slide. Now we go to our last subtopic in this topic, which is proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation stretch, or in acronym we call it PNF stretching. There are three basic types of PNF. The first one is hold relax, number two is contract relax, and the third one is hold relax with agonist contraction. We will learn all three, but bila nak exam nanti, you only focus on dua ni saja, hold relax and contract relax. Tapi untuk kelas kita belajar tiga-tiga ni. Sebab yang ketiga ni dia hampir sama dengan yang pertama. Okay. A stretch to improve hamstring flexibility is used as example. Okay, now we go to first type of basic PNF stretching, which is PNF hold relax. Step 1 is begin with passive pre-stretch that is held at the point of mild discomfort for 10 seconds. Ingat 10 seconds. Number 2 is the partner apply a hip flexion force and the athlete is instructed to hold and don't move the leg while the athlete hold and resist the movement so that an isometric contraction occur and is held for 6 seconds. And the last point here is the athlete then relax and passive stretch greater magnitude is performed and held for 30 seconds. The increased ROM is facilitated due to autogenic inhibition, activation of hamstring. Here are the illustration of those stretching. Untuk explanation yang previous slide, di sini saja awak tengok sini dia akan do pre-stretch berapa second? 10 second, 10 second, and then di sini dia akan buat hip flexion force. Your partner akan tolak dan awak tahan lah, bukan lawan, tahan. That is hold relax. Partner tolak, awak tahan berapa second? 6 second, 6 second. And the last one is you redor, your partner tolak, your passive force tolak. Ingat 10 second, 6 second and 30 second. Ingat 3 nombor keramat ni bila buat PNF. 10 second dia tolak, mild discomfort. 6 second dia tolak, awak tahan, and the last one is 30 second, 30 saat, awak redha, dia tolak. That is hold relax technique. Okay, next technique is contract relax. Begin with a passive pre-stretch that is held at the point of mild discomfort for 10 seconds. Next point is the athlete then extend the hip against a resistance from the partner so that concentric muscle action through the full ROM occur. And the last one is the athlete then relax and a passive flexion is applied and held for 30 seconds. Here the illustration for contract relax technique. Dengar, the first one is sama macam tadi. Awak tolak at the mild of discomfort, pre-stretch, berapa second? 10 second, nombor keramat lagi, 10 second. And then number 2 is your partner maintain mild discomfort tadi, tapi the athlete awak akan resist those. Ni baru awak tolak. Awak yang kena stretch, tolak. Tadi, yang first tadi awak tahan. Ni awak tolak pula, tapi partner awak yang akan tahan. Berapa second? 6 second. And the last one is awak redha, your partner akan tolak. Jelas? Dapat bezakan dengan yang pertama dan yang kedua. And the last technique is hold relax with agonist contraction. Maksud dari sini hold relax. Hold relax tadi adalah teknik yang pertama tadi. So the first point here is this technique is identical to hold relax in the first two phases. And during the third phase, a concentric action of agonist is used in addition to the passive stretch to add to the stretch force. Okay, now I will explain with illustration. The first one sama macam contract hold relax tadi, mild discomfort. Berapa second? 10 second. And then you go for second step, sama macam hold relax. Partner tolak, awak tahan. And then the last ni yang berbeza dengan yang pertama tadi. Partner awak tolak, awak ikut sekali. Paksa diri awak ikut sekali dia tolak tu. That is hold relax and agonist contraction. Faham? Yang tadi awak redha. Yang first two teknik tadi awak redha. Awak tunggu je. Ni awak sendiri akan tolong sekali, support sekali. To go for a passive stretch for the last step ya. Berapa second? 30 second. Here are some common PNF stretching with a method. The first one is calf stretch, groin stretch, quadricep and hip flexor. Next is for your pectoralis, your chest, and then for your shoulder. Next is for your hamstring, piriformis, and groin. Next is lower back and hamstring, quadricep and hip flexor. Next slide is, does static stretching decrease muscular performance? The answer is yes or no. Maksud dari sini, there are some evidence that static stretching can decrease the muscular performance, but there are no solid evidence show that static stretching decrease the muscular performance. Maknanya tak sahih lah. Still ada kajian yang orang buat cakap static stretching ni tak ada efek pun dengan performance. Tapi ada juga kajian cakap ada efek dengan performance. Sebab tu when we kaji pasal stretching ni, kalau awak tengok di sini awak, dia akan bermain dengan rest interval, how many second dia do warm up, how many second dia stretching. Benda tu akan menentukan your muscular performance. So the answer is there is no solid evidence to this point. Next is enhancing flexibility through whole body vibration. Sama juga, there are no solid evidence toward this point. Second last slide is stretching guideline for older adult. Always precede stretching exercise with some type of warm-up activity. increase circulatory and internal body temperature. Next is stretch smoothly and don't bounce. Don't stretch a joint beyond its pain-free ROM. And the last one is gradually ease into a stretch and hold it only as long as it feels comfortable, 10 to 30 seconds. That is for older adult. And this is our last slide. Conclusion: to improve performance and decrease the chance of injury, athletes should use both warm-up and stretching to prepare for sport activity. The most effective stretching techniques are those that take advantage of the inhibition provided by PNF. However, if a partner with appropriate expertise is not available, static stretching is an easy and effective alternative. Paling senang buat static stretching saja. For you yourself or for your partner or your client or your athlete. Okay, as conclusion, saya nak beritahu sini, lepas ni saya harap lepas awak tengok nota ni, tak ada lagi istilah asal buat passive stretching je, PNF. Tak, sekarang awak dah tahu macam mana nak buat PNF dengan betul. You have those rule. Ingat tak? Nombor keramat tu tadi. 10 second, 6 second, and the last one is 30 second. Dan kenal pasti perbezaan 3 jenis PNF stretching tu tadi. Okay, tu yang pertama. Yang kedua adalah warm up. Warm up adalah satu yang sangat penting. Memang kita selalu cakap reduce injury. Kenapa? You have a lot of point there. Ada 10 point tu tadi. You can explain to your partner or to yourself. Kalau awak rasa malas nak warm up, ingat balik slide ni. Untuk awak tahu lebih banyak knowledge dan supaya awak tak tinggalkan warm up. Betapa pentingnya warm up ni. Okay, I think that's all for today. Salam Jumaat dan selamat berhujung minggu. And for homework nanti saya akan bagi di group. I think that's all. See you when I see you.